My name is Robert. I'm a compulsive overeater. My story is one of relapse after long-term recovery. And I hope I'll be able to encourage other people to share in similar vein and to get back into recovery if we ever do relapse. My home group is the OA Frith Street Stoho meeting every Saturday morning at 11. So I shall be going to that later on this morning. Prior to that, I worked in the physical meeting in Frith Street. And prior to that, I worked in the Chelsea and Westminster Saturday morning meeting. I left that because it became too cliquey, but I find myself very comfortable in the home group. I've been working the steps since 12th of October 1984. So I'm 38 years working the steps. And I go to a meeting of OA every week, and I do 3 other meetings also every week. And I read the OA literature, in particular this book, the OA for Today meditation book. As you see, mine is getting a bit battered because I've had it a long time. And I also read The Mothership, the first 5 chapters of AA, because that reminds me where it all began. And it seems extraordinary that I should relapse when I've looked after myself so very carefully for all these years, but I did. What actually happened was this. I'd been in self-isolation for over 2 years because I have chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And this means that if I catch COVID, I go to the next world pronto because I have no means of protecting myself from infection. And I hadn't had my full vaccine because my GP said I didn't need it. He was wrong. And so I changed GPs and I've had my 5th vaccine. So now I can go out. But, you know, what mattered was that I didn't understand the physical and mental effects of being in long-term isolation. It affects one's capacity to reason and to remember and to think clearly. So I had a wonderful time in self-isolation. I loved it. I spent my whole time composing music. And I've composed a huge amount of music during that time because I had nothing else to do. And so I was very happy doing that. But I got myself very tired walking one day when I was allowed out. And I went to my doctor and I had blood tests. And then I went on to a meeting and then I finished up in a restaurant and I helped myself to some marron glacé. Now, marron glacé is sweet chestnuts that have been glaciated. They're like eating individual little Mars bars, and I had 6 of them. And 2 weeks later, I did exactly the same again. I had another marron glacé. And also on both of those occasions, I bought £10 worth of lottery because I'm spending so much on music that I thought it would be a good idea to get some performances one of these days. So I bought £10 of lottery tickets just in case I might win one and I could put on the operas and other works that I've been performing. So I relapsed both on my gambling and on my sugar, which is a fundamental part of my recovery, sugar and white flour. Crazy, absolute madness. I had no way of protecting myself against the stinking thinking of addictive disease. And down I went. But I was back in again after the second occasion. So I said, I had 10 days out. And here I am back in again for 6 months. Now, what's important here is that when we do relapse, we acknowledge it. So having had the spiritual awakening in step 12, yes, I do have the spiritual awakening in terms of understanding all the work I've done on the preceding 11 steps, but it has changed my life. I'm having the life of my dreams. I'm very, very happy. I'm 85 years old, and I feel 35. I behave 25. So I'm happy with that. And my music keeps me very active. At the moment, I'm helping somebody who's a professional composer who wants to get a job in which he has to have the equivalent of O-level mathematics. Well, I used to train people for O-level mathematics, so I'm helping him. So every day I'm spending an hour with him doing mathematics. So that's reaching out to help somebody else in a very different way. But reaching out to help people in the fellowships is fundamental to recovery. So and the other part of step 12, carrying the message. My message of recovery is one thing, but my message of relapse is another, and equally important, to show that, you know, however long we've been in recovery, we can relapse. And there's no shame in that. It just happens, and we just have to get back at it. And so I did get back at it. And I'm back doing my regular meetings and doing my literature and all the other things that I do to maintain my abstinence. But it was so surprising to find that, you know, I've helped many people over the years with their eating disorders and with other addictive behaviors. The ones that go with eating disorders are shopping, spending, work, and exercise. I used to shop for England. I'm banned from delicatessens because I want to buy the entire shop, and I take it home and it goes bad before I have time to eat it. So spending, I spend money that I haven't got. I've spent, in this last year, I've spent £40,000 more than I've earned on music, because I've earned nothing, and I spent a great deal on getting people to train me. So it's all coming out of my savings, which won't last indefinitely. Work, I take on work I don't even want to do. I do want to do the work that I do with the musician I'm helping with his O-level maths. I want to do that because he's a wonderful musician. I want to do everything I can to help him. He's also in recovery and working very hard. Exercise. I'm exercise anorectic. I hate exercise. I just do not want to do it. But I have osteoporosis. I'm 9 inches shorter than I was when I was 20. I used to be 6'2.5". I'm now 5'5.5". I'm shrinking, so take a good look, because maybe next year I'll disappear. I've already been out for my walk this morning. I do 1 mile round the square every day, and I've done that. I do that every day, and I do my knees bend, arm stretch exercises in the bedroom for 20 minutes, and I do my exercise bike for 10 minutes every day. So I'm very fit. I don't like it. I keep time by saying, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. But in fact, I enjoy going around the square because I meet the same birds, and I take some almonds in my pocket to feed the squirrel, and she comes up to me and begs, and I give her the nuts and so on. So I do the exercise. So shopping, spending, work, and exercise are things that I know that any person with an eating disorder is likely to relapse upon, and I look after myself in that way. So carrying the message of recovery is partly physical. I do believe that sugar and white flour are the main causes of making me crave. Now, other people have different ideas, and that's fine. But I know that sugar and white flour, if I take any of it, it says more, 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 more. I want progressively more, and I can't afford it. I cannot afford to have my physical abstinence thrown away. And I carry the message of spiritual recovery, which, as I say, is based on what I read every day from the OA Big Book and from my first 5 chapters. And I also read the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. I find the literature is very helpful. One of my sponsees is 20 years abstinent. Well, I'm 6 months abstinent. So he's got way more time than I have. But he said he wanted to keep me as sponsor, and I feel very privileged. So I use the tools in a way that I find works for me. I'm back in my routines, and the routines of my recovery I find very important. So I'm very grateful for you, Justina, for inviting me, for you, Katie, for running the meeting, for Sarah, for being the secretary, for all of you who are here, because my continuing recovery depends on fellowship with you. Thank you very much for letting me share.